Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports' Order. And tonight, we're going to pick out some NBA awards, Coach of the Year, MVP, etc. We're going to recap some NFL trades, have a conversation about news from around the league. And then, of course, tonight, we're going to talk about the college football playoff. Who's still alive? Who's going to get there? It's me, 2-5, your unorthodox statistician, going left so much you thought I was southpaw. I can see what Deontay Wilder can't. And I got with me the even kill, born in Texas, raised in Virginia, representing everything New Jerusalem to the point that he is frustrated and upset and don't know how New York gets to claim Frank Sinatra. Makes no sense. New Jersey, stand up.
Best pizza on earth.
Do me a favor. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. And of course, we're going to start it off with that little thing called Get It Off My Chest. So real quick, nothing too serious. I was sitting here Saturday night, running in between my neighbor's house and my house because we was outside having a campfire. I was watching Ohio State and Oregon on my phone. My phone got down to like 15%, so I had to sneak in the house. I had to go to the bathroom real quick, and I had to watch, the fourth quarter or whatever. So I was sitting here watching this game. Everything was lovely. It was the game of the year so far, one of the few games that actually live up to the hype. And as I was sitting here, there was about 10 seconds left. Ohio State had the ball trying to drive to get in field goal range. They're about 10 yards away from a 56-yard field goal, which is about 5 yards longer than that kicker's career high. So out of a timeout, Dan Lanning sends 12 men on the field because he's like, hey, how can we find a way to keep them out of field goal range? You know what? These rules are dumb because if there's a false start, if there's a hold, 10-second runoff, the game's over unless Ohio State's got a timeout. But if we commit the penalty, they're going to let us play and let the time run off the clock. So they let the play happen. 4 seconds run off the clock. That leaves Ohio State with 6 seconds left. They got 5 yards closer, so that was a gamble. That was an educated risk. Let them get these 5 yards, and we'll try to hold them from there. But 6 seconds. So Will Howard takes the snap, pulls a Nico on us. Nico ran out of bounds. Will Howard decided I'm going to slide and try to call this timeout, except for you only had 6 seconds. So you couldn't do it in enough time to pull it off. So I heard somebody else mention that it reminded them of Dak when he was trying to run to the line against San Francisco in that playoff game.
Completely different.
Yeah, I know it was, but, people got to make their comparisons. So first of all, Ohio State fans, Ohio State supporters, don't think that's why y'all lost this game. Because I would say it was the over 500 yards you gave up to Oregon. I would say it's the 32 points that you gave up to Oregon. I would say you should have just made one more play.
The corner that gave up a perfect passer rating all game.
Yeah, but I'll get to him later. But I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? So the NCAA, I'll give them a hand clap real quick because they came out today, as much as I criticized them, they came out today and they said, you know what? No more. When this happens, the clock is not, the time will get re-added to the clock. Well, I got one better for you. I got two better for you, NCAA. How about once the ball is snapped and you verified that there's 12 men on the field, how about you just blow the play dead right there? You know what I mean? You don't even have to worry about the clock. If you're going to penalize the offense and say, well, hey, holding, false start, 10-second runoff, if the defense pulls a stunt like that, put 10 seconds back on the clock. Penalize the defense. Penalize the team for trying to play this chess game that could end up being checkers if you had policies in place. Now, Ryan Day and Will Howard both short-circuited during this play, during this ending of this game. Clock management off the rails. Denzel Burke, he was supposed to be one of the top corners in the draft next year. I thought he was taking it to Ohio State. Marshawn Lattimore, turns out he was just Eli Apple. And, oh, by the way, did you see that Eli Apple just got signed by the Dolphins. But but when I look at this,
they're trying anything to win.
Yeah, but when I look at this, I want to give the NCAA a hand because they took swift action. Now the only thing I got left is do something about Lane Kiffin and his players faking these injuries.
It's gonna be tough. The injury faking thing is it's a staple of football. It works outside of 2 minutes. I just say deal with it. I just say have a plan. If you're in the offense and you're playing Ole Miss, just have a plan in place to where you're gonna go quick.
My plan is I injure you for real.
And if they don't fall quick enough, snap the ball. Like if
that whole thing back in the day. Remember back in the day, your parents used to tell you, saying it's gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. It's gonna hurt me to break your ankle.
Or like when they say don't play with crutches because you might end up needing them.
Yeah,
I believe that.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that.
I like the swift action. I really don't understand like some of the rules because I remember it was a game, Tennessee versus New England, and Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel were playing like the rule loophole, like the clock keeps running if you keep getting like defensive penalties. It was something strange that they were doing where he picked up on, Bill Belichick is in the weeds about the rules. Julian Edelman talked about how someone was arguing a rule. I think Matt Light was arguing a rule with Bill Belichick, and he looked at him and said, "You're really going to argue with me about rules?" He was like, "Yeah, you know what, Bill, you might be right."
Nick Saban, like, no, I think you misinterpreted that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the swift action, but ultimately, you got to put yourself in a better position. I know sometimes games come down to the final play to 2 minutes. My son played a high school. They played their game on Saturday. It felt like the refs were just throwing flags on our kids and just missing the face mask for the other team. Like, I never feel something's deliberate. This one felt deliberate, or they were just that blind and oblivious. So it happens. But at the end of the day, you got to make plays when your opportunity to make plays come. He should have slid at 4 seconds, got that timeout, and attempted a 58-yard field goal versus a 56-yarder by taking those extra 2 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll be all right. They're in the Big Ten. They're a big draw. They're going to fill any stadium during the championship. Just win out, you'll be good to go.
Yeah, we'll get back to that later.
Yeah, so might get off my chest a little simple, something that's near and dear to me. It's called leadership. I'm big on leadership. I'm big on when you're put in a position to be a leader, even by de facto, like big brother, because I have 3 older sons and I have 1 daughter. So if the oldest one's not here and the middle one's not here, the youngest one, listen, I know you got something going on, but this is your big brother responsibility for right now. And then when the middle one's here, like, yo, you got these 2, you driving now, they need to get from point A to point B. I'm really big on owning your responsibility, your leadership, and not just bragging about it, not going out telling, oh, look, I got, I'm the oldest, I got, 2 little brothers and a little sister, and you're just bragging about it and everybody's giving you credit. Now I need you to put the work in when it's your time to do that. Same thing with me. I can't just be like, yo, my kids are so bright, they're athletic, they do all this. And then when it comes time for me to be dad, I step to the side because I don't feel like it. I feel like a couple of organizations are suffering from that lack of leadership. One being the New York Jets, even though it's essentially a family-owned business, Woody Johnson, Johnson & Johnson, they're pretty successful in other aspects of their business. The way they're handling their football team is a debacle. The Dallas Cowboys, another lack of leadership. The nepotism is kind of running rampant. And we've seen both of those teams like that problem rear its head this week. Aaron Rodgers, I get it. You want to call the play out saying, hey, that guy's supposed to be up the boundary. If that's the case, why'd you throw it?
Mm-hmm.
You could have thrown a debris saw on the flat, or you could have thrown better passes about the game, or you can simply stop trying to make this perfect highlight pass and just hit the check down and hit the drag route. Everything doesn't have to be a beautiful ass back shoulder. Last week, the game against London, Mike Williams was on top of Stephon Gilmore. Pause. He could have just thrown it to the pylon, right, and let them fight it out. But he wants to throw, I'm going to throw this perfect back shoulder. Like, no, we needed a touchdown anyway. So if you're going to throw it down there to me, and you and I don't have that chemistry, you can tell through the weeks that we worked and practice. Obviously, you guys aren't on the same page. Be a leader. Put that where he needs it, not where you want to be. That's not what leaders do. Leaders put their people in the best positions to succeed, not demand that their people be in position for them to succeed. I mean, servant leadership. Jerry Jones can't front, dog. You are a billionaire. Your team is worth $6 billion if you were to sell it today, roughly. Probably even more because I think Denver went for 6.
Denver went for 4.6. Washington went for
4.6.
about 6.2.
So Dallas is 7. We'll call it 6.5 to be safe. And you mean to tell me you couldn't come up with $22 million to pay Derrick Henry for the next 2 years? You see what he's doing in Baltimore? That's your problem. Everyone called it out. You didn't have to be a genius to recognize, like, bring it back Ezekiel Elliott, who looks like an offensive guard who did nothing for New England, wasn't going to all of a sudden be better for you when you consider you cut him a year ago. So you get on this radio show because you want your voice to be heard, you want your team to be in the news, you want to be relevant, and then when someone calls you to the carpet, you get all upset. That's not what leaders do. Own it. Hey, as an owner, I've done a great job as a GM. Recently, not so much. I had CeeDee Lamb hold out, cause friction in the locker room, paid him. Had Dak hold out, cause friction between him and I. Because Dak was in the media talking like, I don't care what this dude says. He says all that shit on TV. That's the guy that's expecting a $200 million check from you. And he doesn't even expect you enough to keep it inside. Like he need to get a corporate answer. Like, yeah, Jerry says a lot of stuff on TV. It's just the lack of respect, and that's what you get when you're not a good leader. People won't respect you.
As Residente would say, he's saying words.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look around the league where guys are truly empowered, they're successful, Kansas City, Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, both were fired as head coaches. They come work back for Andy Reid, complete autonomy. They can do what they do. Andy Reid oversees it. It works out. D'Amico Ryans, rookie quarterback last year, 10 wins, win the division. We had him projected to go 3-14, 4-13. Then you got a guy like Nick Sirianni, just went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. You would think he would get better as a leader. He's out here acting the fool, one of the most immature people in sports right now. But if that's the stick, that's the stick. But when it falls apart, we'll see that the teams that are really surviving are the teams with great leadership, not great showmanship. We're going to talk about the Jets. We'll talk about Dallas. And at the end of the year, they might have a combined 12, 13 wins between the two teams. We'll talk about them every week on every show. What were you talking about here? But Houston's going to have 11 or 12 wins. Kansas City's going to have 11 or 12 wins. Philly's going to be struggling, probably won't make the playoffs. They're going to have to clean house. So the difference between leadership and showmanship is top notch. I would just wish these guys would kind of employ that opportunity. Like, listen, you're going to be a leader, be a leader. You're going to go on a radio show and take these bullets, take the bullets. Don't bring your kid to the press conference so people don't fire off on you. Because if I was there, I'd be like, yeah, fuck your kid. Why you out here acting like an asshole all the time? Plug your ears, kid. Like, why you out here shaving your head, screaming at fans? Like, why do you need to be that braggadocious? You're already a head coach. Like, what do you need?
He had many men playing the day.
Yo, nobody wish death on you. We wish maturity for you. Nobody trying to murk you. You trying to kill your own career. As a Super Bowl coach, man, that buys you 3 years. Look at Doug Peterson. You get to a Super Bowl,
running out.
Man, you lost to Patrick Mahomes. We get it. But
a lot of people done that.
Yeah, so shout out to leadership and great leaders. I just happen to be a good one myself. I just wish other professionals would embody such an ideology, but we'll see. Like I said, when they're sitting at home late January, or guys don't play because of tight hamstrings, when their season's over 2 or 3 weeks before the season actually ends, we'll see if some changes are made.
Yep, and safe travels, Residente. It's funny, because now you have an opportunity. The trade deadline's coming up in a few weeks. So, now you can potentially try to right some of your wrongs. You didn't go get Derrick Henry. Can you go get, say, a Travis Etienne? Could you go get Devin Singletary? Giants wouldn't trade with you. Could you get a Zach Moss or somebody like that? I don't know why you let Tony Pollard go in the first place. Not that he's a star or anything, but he's better than anything you got in that running back room right now.
I see. If you had a plan to replace him, I can
Yeah,
see why you would let
but
him go.
obviously they didn't.
They
And
didn't
that's
even
the problem.
formulate one.
And that's the problem. Just like Mike McCarthy, right? What's his status? This is the last year of his contract. Like is he for the fact that we haven't even heard about a conversation that involves the word extension? Does that mean he's gone?
Yo, Mike McCarthy going to Jacksonville or Las Vegas.
Okay. All right. Well,
I feel bad for Antonio Pierce, but I don't think he gets out of this. I think he gets out of this year and he gets fired at the end of the season. But they're gonna be one of those teams that they're gonna be sellers. Like as we getting down to this Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams trade, like obviously the writing was on the wall from the time that, and I talked to my father, like my dad was up this weekend. So I drove down to Virginia and picked him up and came back and drove it. So we talked a lot about sports last night. And
right.
one of the conversations we were having was that who benefits from the Adams trade?
Aaron
and how
Rodgers.
we knew it was going to happen. Like I told him, I knew it was going to happen when the Raiders, just like they did with Bisaccia a few years back, won all those unnecessary games, ruined their draft position, didn't get a good draft pick. They did the same thing with Antonio Pierce. And I get that he wanted to keep his job. He wanted to show he was a vibe. But at some point, you needed to be around 9 to 11 in this draft to get a realistic shot at jumping into the top 6 to get one of these quarterbacks. Now, a lot of quarterbacks went in that top 12, I believe 5, 6. So, yeah, you had 1, 2, 3, 8, 11, 12.
12, yeah.
So, yeah, those 5 go. I was like, I still feel like Atlanta and Vegas could have made a deal. And if I was Vegas, I'm like, listen, I got Devontae Adams, favorable contract considering everyone's getting paid. I would have made that. I would have pulled the trigger and called Atlanta like, yo, what do we got to do to get the 8? Even if they love Penix, would you take 2 firsts in a couple of seconds? Because I get that these draft picks seem valuable, but we're watching guys every year not pan out.
Mm-hmm.
And if it goes sideways, like you said, you could have moved Adams for a second. Like you can do other things. I feel like hoarding these draft picks like your Danny Ainge just to do nothing with them doesn't make any sense. So make a splash, move from, I think they were like 14 or so, 13, 14.
They were right after Denver, yeah.
Up to 8. They didn't make that move. And when you went to the season with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, considering that, and on top of that,
whose idea was that anyway?
Exactly. I don't know whose idea it was, but then you had the Netflix show come out, Receiver, and Devontae Adams is mic'd up. He is not holding back on how much he hated Jimmy Garoppolo, how much he hated the passing situation in Vegas. And then you bring in Gardner Minshew. It's like, I like Gardner. I think he's dope. I think he's a great invite to like a party or a cookout or go bowling with. But ride or die with a $28 million wide receiver who's used to Aaron Rodgers, that was a bad move.
Well, that was the funny part about it. The last time we saw Gardner Minshew, his coach was on video telling him that he fucked up a 4th down play that kept them from making the playoffs.
No, it was edited. That was an early.
Oh, that was edited? Hey, I know what I saw. That was still the last, whether it was edited or not, that was the last thing I saw.
It was an earlier play from that game where he said we had that. And then when the 4th down pass got dropped, it got edited to make it look like he said.
Well, all I'm saying is the last thing we saw about Gardner Minshew, whether it was edited or not, was his coach telling him that he messed up a play.
That definitely that last game. And like I said, I like Gardner Minshew. I think he is probably one of the most exciting non-starting quarterbacks in the league.
Gardner Minshew is one of those dudes that you talk about like he's a gamer.
He's like a more charismatic Case Keenum.
He's fucking Kyle Orton.
He's probably fun to be around. I love his personality. I love his little country swag. But it was not going to keep Devontae Adams. I think we all, like I said it before the season started. I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one. Adams was going to be a Jet. I don't know why the Jets pussyfooted around for this long. They should have just made this trade in July.
And his hamstring is better now too.
Hey, I don't care what hurts.
You know what I'm saying? But apparently
should
he's
have
playing
been-
against the
he
Steelers this weekend.
He should have been wearing 17 for the Jets this summer. As soon as Aaron got back from his ecstasy mushroom retreat in the mountains of Washington or Lake Tibidabo or whatever the hell he was, they should have been like, "Yo, we know what you want. Let's go get Devontae."
Back when Aaron Rodgers was getting high down in Lake Titicaca.
They should have let Mike Williams go to Kansas City instead of trying to like take something from Kansas City. So they should just let Mike Williams go to Kansas City, get Devontae Adams, and give Antonio Pierce an excuse for why his team is going to be so bad in 2024. But now it looks like you don't know how to control your team, because I heard Max Crosby is potentially on the block.
But even with that, I don't even know what this does for the Jets, because Aaron Rodgers was out there looking like looking like Andrew Luck the other night. You know what I'm saying? Getting smacked up every other play. He's grimacing. He's holding on to stuff. He's limping. He'd be lucky to make it through the season.
He says something quite poignant, and I agree with him. He said, tonight we were a 30-point offense and the points don't reflect. And we're like, he's right. The holding call on the touchdown was bogus. The one that they called on Tyron Smith. Braylon Edwards was his foot was coming up off the 1 yard line. Braylon Allen, my bad. You know, it's all these actions. You gotta be messing up names. I'm gonna say Mike Missoula later. I wrote down Joe purposely, but we'll get to that. But he was in the end zone. Like the whole, I get it's a penalty, you got to call it, but it's like, what are you watching? Because he's in the end zone when the flag comes out. Like that guy was not getting him. The play was off the center in the right guard, and you call a hold on the left tackle. That guy wasn't going to get anywhere near him. He was already in the end zone. So that's a touchdown. You got the 2 missed field goals, obviously the interceptions. So they like you said, they had a 30-point offensive productive night. The problem is, he probably looked at every drive where they didn't get points and let it fester every time they didn't get points, instead of getting up. So like, you know what? Bet. We got 20 points. They got 23. Let's go get 27 and walk out here with a victory in front of our home crowd. He doesn't do that. And that's the problem. That's the problem that you're going to run into with the Jets. If it
leadership, right?
It has none. It's a track record of a lack of leadership. He doesn't galvanize the players. That's why he only wants people around him who agree with him and do what he wants.
Yeah, and in addition to the offensive line, like, yeah, Devontae Adams might get you a few more points. You know, he might get you, an extra field goal or something like that. But I just don't think that the Jets are, and Aaron Rodgers is, capable of being that type of offense consistently. Because I mean, you still got to get the running game off the ground. It started out good.
All you gotta do is get a ball to the running backs. It's like it's not like they have the people there. It's not like they're Dallas and they don't have the horses and they're just not using them. All they have to do is give the ball. Just give the ball to your 2 running backs. That's it.
Yeah,
they'll do the rest.
Especially Braylon Allen. That dude looked like the ultimate warrior or something out there.
Dude can't even buy alcohol yet.
Like he looked like what's that dude with the NBA player, Desmond Bain? You know what I'm saying? Like he can't even,
little ass arms.
Yeah, he can't even reach. He can't even pat himself on the thigh. You know what I mean? Get that man the ball.
Back and tie his shoes.
Get that man the ball and let him run somebody over. And
when they did, they scored. When they did that in the red zone, they scored.
But in the AFC East,
back shoulder throws and seam routes to tight ends in the end zone. Like, come on.
But in the AFC East, the Jets weren't the only team to make a move. Their rival that they played on Monday night, the Buffalo Bills, went out and got a receiver. And the thing that caught me about the trade, this was what caught me about it. So Devontae Adams making $11 million or so. Amari Cooper making $800,000 or so. As far as what they're getting this season from those teams, and they both went for a 3rd round pick. And Amari Cooper, and I don't know if it's the Cleveland thing, outside of that game last year where he broke the Browns in single game record with Joe Flacco, by the way, Amari Cooper hasn't been good for 2 or 3 years now. You know what I mean? But I do like the pickup for Buffalo because he's still better than anybody else they got on their roster. And to prove that, they went and cut MVS.
Yeah, I think Buffalo did a great deal, got a great deal out of that. Amari Cooper at a minimum is a number one guy. He knows how to be the number one wide receiver.
Might be the best route runner in the league, or at least in the top, 6 or 7.
Everybody else gets to fill their role, and I think he will be better for Keon Coleman than Devontae Adams is for Garrett Wilson. I think this narrative that's being spun is that Devontae Adams is going to come in and tell Garrett Wilson everything that Aaron wants him to do. And Garrett's like, I don't give a shit about Aaron. I was here first getting 1,000 yards with Zach Wilson.
I was the offensive rookie of the year.
I'm like, I've been in shit. You're not even a fart type shit. Like that's probably what he's thinking. I think Keon Coleman is gonna really latch on to the relationship that Amari Cooper and Josh Allen built. I think Keon Coleman's gonna look at that as okay, this is gonna really benefit me. I look at the Garrett Wilson coming in like, yo, so you're gonna bring your old bitch back? You know what I'm saying? Like, so now I'm supposed to be the side chick again. I'm supposed to go stand out there and so it's like, but funny thing, Dallas got a 5th round pick when they traded Amari Cooper 3 years ago. Got a 5th. And they goes 3 years later, 3 years older from a terrible team for a 3rd. I think Cleveland might have did Amari a favor because they know, like, listen, we stuck, but we're gonna save you. Yo, I don't even know why that popped in my head. Don't tell anybody.
I've never even heard an Ice Spice song.
That's the only part I know. Or the much part.
Like, the only reason I heard Glorilla was because of Joe Budden, but I don't even know these chicks.
Music.
But anyway, but yeah, I think that Buffalo made it's one of those low risk, high reward. If it doesn't, I mean, you're not signing Amari Cooper because you're like, this dude is going to put us in the Super Bowl. So with Devontae Adams, not saying that you're looking for Super Bowl or whatever, but this is Aaron Rodgers' guy. So there's a certain expectation of now our offense is about to hit the next level. Buffalo was already all right without Amari Cooper. So whatever he can give you is a cherry on top.
The Jets are looking to go 4 for 4 or 5 for 5 in the red zone next week without a doubt. Like, that is something they're guaranteed expecting. I think fans are probably expecting Garrett Wilson just to not be double covered. And you know what? If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm still going to double cover Garrett Wilson just so he gets frustrated when none of the balls comes his way. And when Aaron Rodgers gets sacked and he's not even looking his way and they go to the sideline and they're looking at the tablet and it's Devontae, Garrett, and Aaron, and they need to be separated by Lazard. That's what I want to see happen. If I'm a defense coordinator, I'm doubling Garrett Wilson all day long.
And speaking of the Jets going 4 for 4 or 5 for 5 in the red zone, let's talk about the team that they're playing this weekend. Apparently, Justin Fields may not be the starter anymore.
The locker room wants Justin Fields to start because I think people feel Russell Wilson is corny. Regardless of his talent.
Bunch of Richard Shermans.
Russell Wilson is closer to our age, you and I, than probably most of the players in the locker room that have like a real impact on the field. TJ Watt's in his own stratosphere. He's going to do what he does. But a lot of these other guys probably are really connected to Justin Fields. They saw how he essentially got run out of Chicago. They've seen him come to Pittsburgh, really work, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4-2 record, 1,300 yards passing. And he has the ability to just be a playmaker.
He's a cornball brother.
Yeah, so like I think Mike Tomlin's doing Russell Wilson a solid and giving him the veteran respect as a guy that's been in the league for 10 plus years and giving him an opportunity. But when it boils down to it, a guy that hasn't played tough, quantifiable, actionable football in months versus a guy that's young, and athletic and ready to go
Well,
and
yeah,
played
because he
last
got
week.
benched the last 2 or 3 games in Denver, and
He got benched in Denver. Then he's been injured. I don't think he played. I think he was dressed for preseason games where he wasn't going to play.
So that's my question, right? Like, what was the point of training camp and preseason? So, was Russell the starter? He got hurt.
Russell was the
Justin Fields,
starter, and I
right?
think
So,
Mike
but
Tomlin's
but at
giving
what
him
point?
giving him an opportunity, and then by tomorrow, Justin Fields is going to be a starter.
But now that you're 4-2, and basically tied with the Ravens, for first place, why make the change now?
I don't think he's making a change. I think
Okay.
he's just giving them first team reps because they probably promised him the starting role, giving him the reps just for them to say, hey, we're going to go with Justin. He gives us the best chance to win. So I
Right.
expect
Yeah.
that on either Friday or him not, either Tom is going to say it before the game or he's going to leave the Jets defensive coordinator / head coach who, in, some kind of a limbo. So you got to prepare for both guys and then announce game time decision Justin Fields starts. Because from my mind, logically thinking, it doesn't make a lot of sense to start Russell. It does make sense to give him first team reps simply because Justin, you probably already cut the playbook in third, probably like a third of the playbook you don't run. So you run those plays in practice, like all these other play action rollouts, all the plays that Russell likes, the big moon shots and all that. You run those, you get 120 plays in practice, you give Russell 40 of those, and then you give Justin another 80, which
Do you
is
think
something
there's
that
a
you actually
possibility
run.
that we could see both of them?
If they do start Russell, which I don't think, I can see 2nd and 8, a package for Justin Fields to do.
Slash, the return of Slash. Yeah, because I know they back in training camp. They had Fields returning kicks. They had like little gadgets and had him lining up at receiver and all this kind of stuff. So
yeah,
we'll see. I'm interested to see it. Mike Tomlin, I think so far, when he spoke to the media today, I think he handled it pretty well. He didn't really say a lot outside of Justin's been an asset to us. I do wonder though, and it's too early, but I do wonder that if Justin Fields has a certain cap, like if there's a certain limit of this is how good we can be. Because like you even just said it, we've cut up a third of our playbook probably. There's a lot of conservatism going on. We can't take a lot of chances. So I wonder if long term Russell Wilson could be the better option. Now, coming into the season, I thought that Justin Fields should have been the starter just based off of who the offensive coordinator is, because Arthur Smith even tried to make Desmond Ridder Justin Fields, when he was in Atlanta last year. So I thought Justin Fields would be the better option. But in my mind, obviously, to me, Russell Wilson is the better quarterback. So, so at some point there may be a day of reckoning where you have to make that decision.
It's not like a Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson situation where the gap is substantial. Justin Fields has proven that he can make winning plays with the defense that you had. If you needed to be in shootouts, or if you had the weapons, I don't know if Pittsburgh has the weapons that Russell Wilson can take advantage of. Because Pickens doesn't seem to be engaged.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think
for
that
like
it's
the
possible
entirety
to
of the
trade
game
him for another receiver?
I doubt it. I don't think because he hasn't really put anything on film that's like, oh, I can make that work. Like for instance, I'll use Kyle Pitts example. The narrative around Kyle Pitts is like, was he drafted too high? Is he good? But when you look at him play, he never has a problem. There's no attitude. There's no antics on the field. I imagine I've seen him play for 3 or 4 years now. I don't recall like a 15-yard penalty or any kind of unsportsmanlike. So if I'm a team looking to make a move, I'll look at a guy like Kyle Pitts, a guy that doesn't cause problems. Whereas Pickens just seems like he's a diva, but with like 7th round wide receiver production, like practice squad production. Is like you can't be both. Like, yeah, you're a talent, but even if you're going to be, as demonstrative on the sidelines like T.O. still will go out and catch 22 passes in a game.
Right.
He'll catch the playoff seam route when he's getting hit by two guys. Like, he'll still do that. Like, Pickens doesn't have that on his resume. He just has all of the antics that come along with, wide receivers. So I think they're kind of stuck with him. And I'm not sure if, like I said, I don't think Russell can take advantage of that. They're inept offensively, so you need Justin's legs. You can you're hoping that Russell's arm can make it work, but like I said, they'll go to practice, they'll get the first team reps, they'll get all the moon ball shots, but then when it boils down to it, Arthur Smith is like, listen, I want to run these RPOs, and Russ is not going to run. It's just going to be a PO, which I just call a regular pass because he's not going to tuck it and run.
Right. So, also around the league, Minnesota made a trade for Cam Akers, bringing him back, even though he was on the roster last year. So does that mean that Aaron Jones's hip is a little worse for wear than we're being told? Because he's been called week to week. But I wouldn't imagine you need to jump out the window because you have Myles Gaskin, who's been around the league, played for Miami for a few years on the roster. You got Ty Chandler, who was kind of exciting last year in a backup role to Alex Madison. So I don't think you make a deal like that unless you don't believe in those backups, and Aaron Jones is more hurt than we're being led to believe.
Well, I think Cam Akers playing in L.A., similar style of offense. I think they just figure you could just plug him in.
And he could have done that in offseason too.
But you probably look at the money. You look at the money, you look at the availability, look who you have, and then when your team is playing. Would you rather
just give up a pick?
Like I said, I don't know if the picks I don't believe the picks are as valuable as everyone thinks. Just think about it. You're a Commanders fan. Who'd you draft in the 4th round this year?
We drafted a lineman. I don't know his name, but we drafted a lineman.
Who'd you draft in the 3rd round this year?
In the 3rd round, we got that was 2nd round. We got Sinet.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Off the top of my head. We got Johnny Newton in the 2nd round with the tight end. Oh, we got Luke McCaffrey in the 5th round.
Yeah, I mean, but that's because his name's McCaffrey.
It's because his name is Braun.
Exactly. Like that. I mean, like, I get that these draft picks are valuable, these players are valuable, but it's like I'm giving up the 126th pick. A guy that's been on.
Hey, you know what? Years ago, you would have said I'm giving up. Years ago, you would have said I'm giving up Mr. Irrelevant, and look how that worked out.
Yeah, he's doing great. They're 3-3, and they're about to pay him $62.5 million in 6 months.
And they gonna beat Kansas City this weekend. Spoiler alert. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I like the moves. I think there's going to be more. Cleveland is in such a bind. I heard a pundit today, I believe it was like Alex Breer. He said something along the lines of like, hey, if they let Amari Cooper go, when they definitely need him because their quarterback is playing terrible, are they selling? Do you call about Myles Garrett?
Of course.
Do you call about Denzel Ward? I know he has a concussion problem. Like, do you make these phone calls? Njoku, do you need a tight end?
Of course.
So
the tires, due diligence.
You figure it out. Same thing with Vegas. Guys making business decisions. Do you call out and say who made those decisions and how much business you trying to do for them?
Yeah.
So it's just so many moves that can be made. I don't think we're gonna get another splash. Like I sent a message to you last week saying, "Is DK happy in Seattle?" I doubt that. Move is made.
Jacksonville selling. They just sent Roy Robertson Harris to Seattle, so Seattle gets another. In time to play the Falcons, they get some defensive depth on their defensive line.
So are they trying to stack the cupboard for the next coach? You got to look at teams that are probably going to fire their coach. And if you have a guy like Mike Vrabel, and he has a choice between the Jets right now and Jacksonville
or Ohio State,
we got Trevor Lawrence, or you're like, oh, we got Ohio State money. Or we have prickly Aaron Rodgers and Adams. Hey, but down here in Jacksonville, we got a young quarterback, and we have like 10 or 11 picks in the next draft. I think Because right now, coaches are able to pick their own team. They're not really being recruited, and like no one's really, especially these veteran guys. I
Yeah.
think Vrabel's going to be able to pick it. So maybe Cleveland is out here like, listen, let's stack this. I don't know if anyone want to take on Deshaun Watson and the contract.
No, y'all got to play that out. Y'all got to play that out.
That's
Sorry.
just it was an odd move, but
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then of course, looking at college football, where a lot of teams have reached the halfway point of their schedule. So it's time to start looking at the 12-team playoff this here first year of the 12-team playoff. So, we're going to go around the nation, just talk about some teams that are still in contention. Who's going to make it? Who's not going to make it? Why or why not? So, of course, we're going to start with the very best in the land. The Big Ten. No, I'm just playing. We're going to start with the SEC. Even though the Big Ten does have the current national champion. But we're going to start with the SEC. So, by my count, Mr. Logical.
Let's hear it.
You got Texas, Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, LSU, and then you got A&M and Missouri as wild cards, of being able to get into the playoffs. I mean,
was that 6 or 7?
That was, I don't know, but taking it from the top. So Texas is bringing in Georgia this weekend. When you look at Texas, and this is not a preview, I'm just saying, when you look at Texas, I don't know if they've played anyone that can challenge them the way Georgia can offensively. Defensively, they did go to Michigan. So, we saw Quinn Ewers perform. He's coming back from the injury. They put up 34 in the Red River Shootout like you told me they would. And then, but when you look at their defense, and I'm not even a big Carson Beck fan, but he did just break Georgia's record last week, so Georgia should have a chance to win this game. But let's just say shits and giggles, let's say Georgia does win this game. You look at the rest of Texas's schedule.
Georgia wins this game. They're getting 4 teams out of the 12.
Maybe. Hold on. We'll get there.
Off the bat.
We'll get there. So Texas closes the season at Texas A&M. And then somewhere in that window, they got lucky enough to not play Bama or LSU, but they do go to Vietnam. And I warned everybody about Vietnam 2 weeks ago when Tennessee went down there. And Sam Pittman, the head coach of Arkansas, warned the country that Arkansas fans rather see Texas lose than see Arkansas win. The last time Texas went to Vietnam, they lost by 19.
Says, check my record, all I do is win. That was him, right? I like that.
The last time Texas went to Vietnam, they walked out 19-point losers. So if Texas beats Georgia this weekend, I think that pretty much guarantees they'll make the playoff.
I'm here for the chaos, so I just want chaos. So I think chaos would be Georgia beating Texas.
And
just another top penciled in SEC team to the 12-team playoff, because I'm pretty sure it was probably etched that one of these SEC schools is going to come through undefeated, either Texas, Bama, or Georgia. Somehow it's going to work out where they were undefeated. We're going to get Bama in there. We're going to get Georgia in, and then one more for sure. So I think we're still going to get 4. I like the idea of Texas beating Georgia. That way at the end of the year, they're doing all these, like you say, your transitive properties, and they're just moving all these things around. They're doing the beautiful mind thing on the board. I'm like, cut it out. This is the 4 teams
just like Georgia, right? Let's talk about Georgia, right? Nick Saban's gone. A lot of people assumed, all right, we got a new powerhouse in college football. Look what they've been doing the last few years. But then we told everybody to look at the schedule because they went to Tuscaloosa already. They're going to Austin this weekend. They got a trip down to Oxford, Mississippi coming up in a few weeks. They got to play Tennessee still. And oh, by the way, Georgia Tech is not a slouch this year. So Georgia, even with a loss, I don't necessarily think they're eliminated from playoff contention.
With 2 losses?
Yeah, but it would help them to win this week.
Well, that's going to get into the whole semantics of would you rather have, just hypothetically, a two-loss Georgia team that's fourth place in the SEC or a two-loss Iowa team that's fourth in the Big Ten. You know those antiquated arguments that we make every single year when they basically say, "Hey, we want to get this team in because we think they had a and they played a great game against Bama. They came back, they had the lead until this freshman sensation hooked up with Jalen Milroe for the touchdown. It's like they're one tackle away from being blah 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 blah. You know they'll justify it. Yeah, we gonna beat ourselves over the head, but when it boils down to it, these 12 teams,
Well, Georgia has good news though. All Georgia has to do is take care of their business, right? Because Bama went out here and lost to Vandy. So theoretically,
that's why I said I want the chaos.
Yeah, so theoretically, if you lose to Vandy, you can get got again. South Carolina just almost got them. And oh, by the way, they go down to Rocky Top this weekend. You know, Bama does.
And Alabama had the ball for like less than 20 minutes.
17 minutes and 8 seconds.
Points. It's like somebody should be able. I know Malachi Moore, we talked about it. You know, he was like flipping like because of defense, but it's like someone on the staff has to be able to like rally these guys. Like, listen, we score every time we get the ball. Defense, just stay in your base 3-3-5, make the tackle, and we get the ball back. We're gonna score. Like, what y'all panicking for? Look at your helmets. Look at these jerseys. We're Bama. This is
Bama. The problem with Bama offensively is that they're too reliant on two players. You know, like Jalen Milroe has to play out of his mind in a lot of these games, and then you just throw it up to the 17-year-old.
Just run the ball. Like it's so many. It's probably NFL scouts that come to Bama's pro day and they don't look at any of the skill players. They just look at the linemen. Offensive, defensive.
Well, that's the thing. Their lines have degraded. Like over the last couple of years of Saban's tenure, the offensive line was just getting worse and worse. And now we're at a point where it's not that Bama line that you're thinking of. You know what I mean? Like
you got to run downhill.
And I told you a couple of weeks ago, remember we talked about this. I said, hey, when they played USF, and that game was 14-13 in the fourth quarter, the only problem was USF didn't have a quarterback that could take advantage of their secondary. And we're going to see that commonly throughout these SEC teams that we're going to talk about. So they went to Wisconsin, Tyler Van Dyke, we talked about him, but then he got hurt. Backup quarterback. Then Vandy got him. South Carolina doesn't have the quarterback to do it, but South Carolina was able to go toe-to-toe with them in the trenches. And now you got to go deal with Nico, who everybody crowned. You get to the SEC title game, maybe you'll meet Quinn Ewers. You still got to go play Garrett Nussmeier at Tiger Stadium, probably at night, where Brian Kelly hasn't lost as the LSU head coach. So Bama's by no means out of the woods. And my level of concern is here. I'm not sure Alabama gets out of this weekend.
I think they make it through 10-2. They don't play the championship game. Whatever the fallout of the championship game is, they still get Bama in. You just got to get to 10-2. They do. 10-2, don't play the championship game because you get to 10-2, and whatever reason the math works out where you play the championship game because some other teams lost, and now you're 10-3. Get to 10-2, and you're Bama. They'll get you in at 11.
You're getting in off a name alone, probably.
You're getting at 10 or 11.
And that's where Tennessee
get a nice little easy game the first week.
And that's where Tennessee comes in. You know, long gone is Chattanooga and Kent State. This is real football now. And I brought this up in our season preview where Tennessee is going to be a trendy pick of if somebody that's not in the top 10 or whatever to start the season is going to make the playoff, who will it be? Everyone believes in Nico. And we saw, you know, they went down to Arkansas, put up 14 points and lost. They got held scoreless for the second straight week against Florida this past week. There was the Arkansas game and the Florida game. They went scoreless in the first half. They went to overtime with this Florida team. So Tennessee, the good thing for them is that this game against Alabama is at home. But the problem for Tennessee is not only do you have Bama at home, but you play Georgia as well. You're probably not going to beat both of them. Now, you know, which one could you beat? Just depends, right? We talking about secondaries. Both of them, their secondaries don't look how we're used to them looking. So even if Tennessee survives this weekend against Bama, can they survive Georgia as well? And oh, by the way, you close your season at the Vanderbilt team, which is the same stadium that Alabama just lost in.
It's gonna be tough. It just like I said, SEC football just means more. They always start off
marketing. It works.
They start off pretty high in the preseason rankings. They do have the talent, so it's not like their talent is being like bloviated. It's a real talented group. Every team has top tier talent. It just comes down to are we going to justify we being the the fans and the committee and just justify 10-2, 9-3 SEC schools over 11-1 Army, 10-2 Notre Dame. That's the conversation. No one ever says the SEC isn't a quality conference. It's just that everybody can't get in, and the expectations and the arguments are always more of them getting in than the norm. Like when it was 4 teams, I don't know how many years the SEC almost guaranteed themselves 2. So if you made the SEC championship game, then you were going to get in, no matter win or lose. So it's like it felt like the SEC championship was for naught. He's like you're getting in no matter what.
You think Kirby Smart would have got in more trouble if he would have pushed Quinn Ewers or Arch?
I think what he did was that he was going to try to get to his coach. He was trying to get to his coach so he could let the coach. That dude just was in the way.
Georgia's a bunch of sore losers is what it is. The last few years, they've been able to run roughshod over college football, and now that they're getting some pushback, they don't know how to handle it. So regardless of who he was trying to get to, I just imagine if that was a player that would have pushed a coach and what that would have turned into. So I'm not saying
it definitely would have been.
I'm not saying that he needs to be fired. I'm not, or anything like that. But I'm just saying it needs to be a bigger deal. But LSU, I have no idea what LSU is. The only thing I know about LSU is that their defense isn't very good. Their best defensive player is out for the season, but their defense has played better since that best defensive player is out for the year. They beat Ole Miss this past week in overtime. Kyron Lacey with the push-off got away with it. DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Irvin style. Saying looking at them, they get Bama first week of November. They get Bama at home. Well, I believe it's November 9th. They get Alabama at home. They come to A&M on October 26th. So, it's not necessarily the hardest road to hoe. It would have helped if they would have beat USC back in week 1 or back in week 0. So I don't know what to do with LSU. Like, I like their quarterback. I like Kyron Lacey when he's not simulating shooting people. But outside of that,
y'all got to stop that. I don't know why guys keep doing it every week. Every week.
Because everybody's a copycat. Be original.
Everybody's getting flagged. Every single person's getting flagged. None of them been missed. Every single person who's done any kind of gun-related celebration has gotten flagged.
Especially the ones that get me. So it's already weird. Well, it's already weird when you do it with the touchdown and the first down. Like, it's do your thing though. But when you sack the quarterback and you're standing over the quarterback, that's kind of weird.
Yo, Drake London got one when they end up.
Was that the Eagle game?
Yeah, it ended up kicking a 48-yard extra point. Yeah, he shot it in the air. So that was week 2 in the NFL.
Monday Night Football.
Then I saw a player. He did it with the football after he caught a touchdown. A guy did it to the quarterback. I mean, it's like everyone's seeing these penalties. I'm seeing them on social media feeds. It's not like I'm seeing them live in game and they're not spreading through social media. I'm seeing them on social media feeds. So why are you seeing it and they're doing it? Then I saw the guy like lift his shirt up like he was showing a gun. Anything related to a gun besides shotgun, shotgun formation. That's it. That's the best you can do. So everything else, just leave it alone.
So the SEC said, I don't know how good Missouri is going to be this year. They might be pretty good, but we're going to make sure that they don't make the playoff because we're going to make them play Auburn, Alabama, and Oklahoma back to back to back. So I got them on upset alert, spoiler alert, this week against Auburn. They go to Tuscaloosa next week, but South Carolina just showed us Tuscaloosa might not be as tough as we think it is this year. So
Correct.
Missouri, the one thing they have going for them, they got to kill UMass last week. So, coming off of that A&M loss, maybe they got a set of confidence. They got some confidence back, and they're ready
10
to
to
play some
15
football.
plays that they know are going to work. You just, you break them out the following week.
And that's where, we go back to A&M, the team that just wrecked Missouri. They get LSU coming to the crib on the 26th next Saturday. They get Texas to close the season. So it's all in A&M's hands. Their only loss was to Notre Dame. Nobody's going to kill you for that. Whereas, like, when you look at LSU comparatively, they lost to USC, who just lost their third game. One of those games was to Minnesota. So, one of those games was to a Michigan team that threw for just over 30 yards.
This is awful.
So like that LSU loss doesn't look as great. Whereas if Notre Dame keeps winning, then, A&M gets benefit from that. We lost to this team in week 1 that went 11-1. So, like, that's what the SEC does. It's not even always about who you beat. It's about the good loss. So if A&M, like I said, they haven't played Texas since 2009, 2010. So that place Kyle Field is going to be rocking Thanksgiving weekend, but A&M just has to make it to that point. They got their quarterback back, Connor Wegman. He was out. And you're exactly right. That's what this playoff is. But the Big Ten is coming too. They want 4 teams as well. And I suspect
the committee is going to make it happen.
Yeah, and I suspect
each one's getting 3 off the rip. So 6 spots are already gone.
Right. I'm going to copy Mr. Logical real quick since everybody else likes to do it. Don't piss in my pocket and tell me it's raining. From the standpoint, from the standpoint of if the Big Ten and SEC don't get the number of teams that they think they should get, watch how quickly this playoff format changes in 2026 when it's allowed to be changed. So that's the SEC, and one quick note that I wanted to throw out there, I got to read this because I ain't going to remember all this, but here we go. So Lane Kiffin blew the season last week at LSU because he had his eyes on Gainesville. So for the last couple of weeks, he's been posting pics of Gators before games and all this kind of stuff because, the rumors of him going to Florida. It's all hilarious when you're winning, but when you lose, you look like a damn fool. Now, November 23rd is going to be really interesting because Ole Miss goes to the Swamp that day. So if Billy Napier gets relieved of his duties before that game, the whole week down in Gainesville is going to be, are you coming here? Are you coming here? Are you coming here? Now, the good news for Ole Miss, though, I didn't include them in my teams that are still alive for the playoffs, but they are. They still got Oklahoma. They still get Georgia coming in. They have opportunity.
They're on the outside. They need a lot of help.
Yeah, they definitely need a lot of help. They definitely need a lot of help. I'm not familiar with. That's that was pretty flagrant. Saying and he didn't have to treat Cocktober like that. Saying Cock's just trying to fly. Saying so taking it over to the ACC. Pause. Notre Dame. I'm including them in the ACC. Since they're a de facto. They play 5 ACC teams every year. So Notre Dame got the big win at A&M, but they went and lost to Northern Illinois. So you would argue, does a team that lost to Northern Illinois, who lost to NC State and Buffalo, deserve to be in this here playoff? Most of you might say no. The good news for Notre Dame is that Army and Navy are having an unprecedented year this year where they're both in the top 20 or where they're both undefeated right now. They happen to play both of them. USC, we just talked about their win over LSU. They closed the season at USC. Florida State's not doing Notre Dame any favors for the schedule. Florida State plays Georgia Tech this weekend down in Atlanta. So there you go. Georgia left Georgia. They went and played at Bama. They played at Bama. But still the state
West
over.
Georgia.
Yeah, West Georgia. No, Auburn is like West Georgia. That's what they call Auburn, the University of West Georgia. But Notre Dame, they lost their best defensive player, Benjamin Morrison, who I wanted the Commanders to draft. He's out for the season. So Marcus Freeman does have the defense humming. So this is where Notre Dame not having a conference championship game might hurt them. But on that same note, this is where Notre Dame being named Notre Dame may help them. Because if Georgia Tech had the same resume and they were touting victories over Army and Navy, no matter how good Army and Navy are, and they lost to Northern Illinois, we'll tell them, get the hell up out of here. So that's just it just is what it is. And then you got Miami, the Hurricanes, who the last couple of weeks have been playing with fate. You remember the Friday night against Virginia Tech? Was it a touchdown? Was it not a touchdown? I don't think it was a touchdown, but still.
If you got to look that long, it was a touchdown.
But it's one of those things where you made the call on the field and you got to have inconclusive evidence. You didn't state that you had inconclusive evidence. So therefore, Virginia Tech should have won that game going by the letter of the law. So then, you come back and then you go down 4 possessions to Cal and have to come back and win a game at 2 a.m. with Michael Irvin doggy style. You go to Louisville this week. You play Florida State, but outside of rivalry, I guess you're okay. So really Miami is probably on cruise control until the ACC title game. They do play Syracuse to close the season. Clemson, Dabo Swinney saying, hey, I don't need the transfer portal. And so far, like
it's working out.
It's working out, but the schedule is going to get tougher because they do go to Blacksburg. They do.
But didn't Vandy show that Blacksburg is not a?
No, that was at Vandy.
But it's at Vandy. But it's like, yeah.
Hey, but at the same token, like we just said, Virginia Tech took Miami to the last play of the game. Stop trying to do this transitive property thing. It doesn't work. I am the king of transitive property. It doesn't work. Clemson started out the season with a 31-point loss to Georgia. Obviously, we've learned that Georgia might not be what we thought they were after that game. So I don't know how good Clemson is if you're just playing the game of who have they beat. They beat Florida State, worst FSU team of my lifetime. Literally, that's not even hyperbole. Bad. They beat NC State, who was starting a freshman quarterback for the first time. And that was at home. They beat Appalachian State. So, there's not a lot of meat on that bone, so to speak. Pause and all that. So what does Clemson bring to the table? We'll find out, I guess, over the course of the next few weeks.
Like I said, I just feel like when we went to the 12-team playoff, you were going to try to pack as many teams in from the most popular conferences as we could. As long as they stay within a reasonable win-loss ratio, 10-2, even 9-3, they're going to squeeze them in there.
Right.
I like Miami. Like I said, that Virginia Tech call, it was tough. I think calling the touchdown on the field and say you need conclusive evidence, video evidence to change it. Or you can just look at it like, you know what? I think we might have got it wrong. It was close. It wasn't like the Lazard Hail Mary where he was like laying on the ground with the ball and they ripped it out when he was on the ground.
That's where you have to say it. Like that's why words matter, because usually they'll say after, video review or whatever, we have decided, or XYZ, you didn't say any of that. So that's why I think there was confusion, because, and each referee crew is different, but a lot of times we get that word of it's confirmed or it stands, where it stands is I couldn't overturn it. You know what I mean? Confirmed is this was the right call all along. So it's all about how you present the argument in the first place.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't think it was a catch just because
it wasn't a catch. It wasn't even close.
Came out
it wasn't even close. You got SMU, who I didn't think was going to do well this year as far as making it to the ACC title game, just because coming from a G5 to a power conference, I thought their lines would not be up to par. They lost to BYU. That's their only loss so far, in the BYU, as they call the quarterback there, and but that was before they went to Kevin Jennings at quarterback full time. Since then, they beat Florida State by 26 points. They won. Actually, I was there in person. Shout out to Q, who we still ain't found. And they won at Louisville last week. So SMU is for real. Syracuse is still alive. Just won at UNLV. Pitt still undefeated. For the first 6-0 for the first time since Dan Marino. And then I'm not counting Duke. And I'll see you Friday night, Blue Devils. So taking it to the Big Ten real quick. Oregon, they came off of struggling with Boise and Idaho. And they said, hey, as long as we're not playing a team from Idaho, we will be our true selves. And they went out and they beat Ohio State this weekend. So Oregon's playing with house money. I was looking at their schedule. They do have Illinois coming in next week, Luke Altmaier, but outside of that, the only thing staring them in the face from going undefeated is at Michigan, and not because Michigan's any good, just because it's at the big house. And then the rivalry game with Washington at the end of the year. But for my money, I got Oregon going 12-0, going to the Big Ten title game, losing the rematch.
And they'll both get in.
But with that being said, what about Penn State? Now, this is where controlling your destiny comes into play, because Penn State went out to Los Angeles this past weekend, beat Trojan Angeles. They get a bye week. They go to Camp Randall next week. Then they come back home for the Buckeyes. That's where the season lies as far as the Big Ten championship game.
And that's the thing. You can lose Ohio State not playing the Big Ten championship, win out, and just be sitting there, very similar to like a 10-2 Alabama. I think an 11-1 Penn State not in the Big Ten championship game. They go ahead and write their ticket. You're in.
And this is one of those problems that I have with
just handle your business at Wisconsin.
Which game you talking about, Residente? And this is one of the ones where I get frustrated because Ohio State has to play Michigan, Oregon, at Penn State. You know what I mean? They get Nebraska. Penn State doesn't play Michigan. Penn State doesn't play Nebraska. Penn State doesn't play Oregon.
And it's going to be a year where Ohio State plays everyone else. So it's like,
and I ain't going to like it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is I don't like it. But Penn State does get Washington too.
And Washington hasn't really been like it's not they bring it back the national championship team to play against Penn State. So Penn State, you finish your season out, you handle business at Camp Randall, and if you lose Ohio State, you lose Ohio State. But I think that might be in your favor. I mean, honestly, if you get to the Big Ten championship game, you're still going to get in. But just sitting back, you finish out your season 11-1. You don't have to play an extra game. Yeah, you probably want the title of Big Ten champ, but it's like I'm about to get in the big tournament without even playing in this ancillary tournament because it's like it kind of takes some of the flair away. It's like, okay, we don't need this to get on to the next round. Yeah, let's go ahead and keep our players healthy. Get that extra time off.
You talked about chaos, right?
I'm listening.
If Ryan Day lose to Michigan this year,
that's not gonna be like it's gonna just be there.
No, I'm talking about you want to see a meltdown of epic proportions.
But they still
Ohio State will still get in though.
They'll get in. They'll just get in at 11. They'll be 10-2 Ohio State at 11.
But if they do lose to Michigan, I might drive a U-Haul up to Columbus myself because he gonna need that. Michigan. They are not out of the playoff just yet. All they got to do is win out. We'll see if they start Jack Tuttle this weekend. They're going to Champaign to play Illinois. They lose that game, they're out. They got, like I said, they got Oregon coming in. They got Ohio State at Ohio State. So Michigan's cutting it close. But the game of all games that I never thought I would say might be an elimination game this weekend. Nebraska at Indiana, or as they call themselves now, Windiana.
Oh, that's the coach that said it.
Yeah,
That's one of
my
the,
guy
yeah.
Signetti, Kurt Signetti. He's out here. He came from James Madison. They were one of my surprise teams this year that I said had a chance to go 9-3 or 8-4. Here they are, undefeated. They play Nebraska at home this weekend. Upset alert. And then of course, they get Michigan later in the season. So and they get Ohio State. So it's not out of the woods. They got to win this game. Because they'll probably lose at least one of those two. And then you got Nebraska, who's got Ohio State coming up. So the loser of this game is going to be in a position. So the winner needs. So the winner,
not a favorable one either.
Yeah, Illinois goes to Autzen to play Oregon next week. So even if they beat Michigan, they get a chance next week. They get the chance of all chances next week. I know we were big on Iowa, but making the playoff. But I think that ship might have sailed. They still can't play against
anybody that can score.
Yeah. So then you got the Big 12 to cap it off. Our Utes, our beloved Utes.
Done.
Cam Rising out for the season.
8-year eligibility.
Yeah, 8-year of eligibility. They just lost to Arizona State on Friday night. One of my surprise teams, who I had at 7-5. They're sitting at 5-1 right now. They get Cincinnati this week, but the problem is they're starting quarterbacks out. So sorry, Arizona State. Colorado, only sitting there with one Big 12 loss. Just like Kansas State.
Last week would have been a big one if they could.
That would have been a big win, but this is a big game this weekend because they go to Tucson to play the Wildcats. Texas Tech still sitting there undefeated in conference. Iowa State, BYU. Remember, I told you, we talked about it. Like, there's 6 or 7 teams that can win this conference. The problem is, it ain't none of those teams we were talking about besides Iowa State.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the Big 12. I like Colorado's chances because I think if they win a couple of games, I think they'll get them in the top 25. I thought at 4-1, they had a real opportunity to be in the top 25, but like we said, they didn't really play anyone. And the loss in Nebraska looked pretty bad. Like they were just kind of out of sorts. But Shador's been playing like I still believe he's going to be the first quarterback taken in next year's draft.
Especially with the game the other night.
That same team might take Dean as well, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Especially with that game the other night. Hunter and
they'll be thankful to get one team in. 2 would be bribery.
I think there's a possibility for 2 though, because Oklahoma State's not what we thought they were going to be. Utah's not what we thought they were going to be. So right now you have Iowa State and BYU both with zeros, not just in the conference, but overall. BYU's got the Holy War. They get Oklahoma State this week. Iowa State, it's possible for the Big 12 to get 2. I don't think it's probable, but the opportunity is
But
there.
it's going to – but those teams are prone to get snake bitten.
But that also is what collapses your playoff.
One loss for Iowa State or one loss for BYU puts them at 13-14. So it'll be the argument like, what would you rather have, a 2-loss Ohio State team?
Well, that's what I was about to say. That's the thing that blows up your playoff.
That gets them like soon as they lose, they're 13-14. Everybody, like all the teams we previously discussed, Ohio State, Penn State, Alabama. Strong finish from LSU, maybe Ole Miss goes on around. All these teams will get huddled around 7-12. They'll just kind of hang out in a holding pattern over 7-12. And as the season plays out, they'll just drop them in the place. A 1-loss or 2-loss Notre Dame, you're out. A 1-loss BYU, you're at 13. A 1-loss Iowa State, you're at 14. They're gonna position them. Your holding pattern is gonna be over here. That's gonna be the
playoff rankings November 5th. We'll see what it looks like.
We're gonna be pissed off. I guarantee we're gonna be pissed off as a fan base
because they're gonna make us talk.
It's gonna be ridiculous.
And then of course, you got your G5. Mr. Logical was riding with Boise. I was riding with Memphis. You got Boise at UNLV next week. Don't forget, UNLV has those 2 wins over Big 12 teams. Boise played Oregon tough, and Ashton Genty is just out here running wild all over.
Standing up like Michael Myers.
And the The thing about Genty is, so 6 games, right? He's sitting up here at 1,248 yards. Barry Sanders was at 1,156 at this point during his record-breaking season. So, provided, he doesn't get injured, Genty might be coming for this for real. They play
He's going to
UNLV
have
next.
a couple of 250-yard games in the next few weeks. It's just going to just skyrocket his numbers.
Yeah.
And just kind of set him up. Yeah.
This one's for you, Residente. So not only do they got at UNLV next week, they close with Oregon State, but in between, they get Brock Purdy's little brother in Nevada. Saying even though he's a quarterback, he's been running some gadget plays for them, running some slash type things. So we'll see what Nevada can do. They just beat Oregon State this past weekend. But Boise, I think, is in the driver's seat right now. Liberty's still undefeated, but that schedule's going to come back to bite them. And hopefully my Hilltoppers can knock them off anyway. Memphis had to win at Florida State, which any other year would have been awesome.
Great.
It would have been great for your resume. But the problem is they gave up 56 points and lost to Navy. So they close out at Tulane.
But Navy's been beating the brakes off of people like it's World War II. So like, it might not look like a bad loss when you end up with Army and Navy in their championship game and playing each other the following week in the Army-Navy game. Right. It could be crazy. I'm here for the chaos.
What if one of them beats Notre Dame?
I think the expectation is that both of them are going to beat Notre Dame.
I don't think that's an expectation. I think that's your expectation.
Army
I don't think anybody else on planet Earth.
Army and Navy are gonna go into their championship game both undefeated, both wins over Notre Dame.
I don't think that that's anybody's expectation but yours. Army goes to South Bend. And Navy gets Notre Dame at MetLife. But Memphis closes at Tulane, so that could be a big game too. That could be, can Tulane get back into the conversation depending on how the rest of these teams do? UNLV, like I said, them in Boise, is that an elimination game? That's something to consider. And I don't know, but the one thing that I do like, is red zone percentage. And right now, Ohio State is 100% in the red zone this season, 24 out of 26 touchdowns and 2 field goals. Army, Texas, and Navy are 1, 2, and 3 in that order in red zone defense. Boise, 6th and 3rd down percentage. But before we close this up, Mr. Logical, let me ask you 2 quick questions. They're one question, but I'm gonna just put them together.
All right.
So we look at the NFL sometimes, and back, I know you remember this. Peyton Manning and the gang, I believe they were 14-0, had a game with the Jets, sat their starters, lost the game. Everybody was upset, go for 16-0, all that stuff. Correct. So in college football, and granted, this is the first year of the 12-team playoff, but do you view having a bye, however you feel about it in the NFL, do you feel that same way about college?
I think having a bye in college is not as important as having an NFL. NFL, I think you're only bringing 45 guys. Like your active roster is 53 guys, but I think you show up to the game with 45 to 46 guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of guys on the sideline with hoodies on. Whereas a college game, you're still running 80 guys out there, 4 stars, 5 stars, 3 stars, seniors that are backing up. So you have so much talent. I don't think you need to rest everyone. The defense, if you have an offense that can score points and bunches, I think you'll be fine. I think you'll stay in rhythm because, we've seen guys catch a swing pass from the backfield and somebody blew one man-to-man assignment. Now you got Notre Dame's running back right on the sideline wide open for a 60-yard touchdown. No one's in the picture. It's like the camera's panning and it's like no one there. He just ran on the sideline. So I think in a college game, you can get that kind of play off early, even after a bye, and get right into it.
All right, second question. Do you think that the team that loses the conference championship game, do you think that carries over into the playoff?
Depends on if you've been getting beat by this team a lot. For instance, Ohio State meets Oregon. Ohio State meets Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, and they lose by a more decisively 7 to 10 points. But they're at that point they still would probably be 11-2 because they would have played that'd been their 13th game.
Yeah.
They're still going to get in the playoff. If you end up in a situation where you play Oregon again for the third time, does it get in your head that we lost by, BS 12 men on the field, and then you kind of get, you get beat handily the next game where, at the end of the game it wasn't in doubt.
Right.
And you match it again. But that's all predicated on guys. But no, we saw a lot of guys sit out who thought they were going to be first-round draft picks. We might be in a situation where if I'm Ohio State and I'm 11 going into the playoffs, does that offensive tackle, the defensive tackle, the corner, the wide receiver that's projected to be a number one pick, does he want to play 2 or 3 more games? Or does he sit out? Does his agent or his team tell him, like, listen, let these other guys who are going to be here next year play for this. You don't need 3 more games, 3 more hits. Go out to California, go to the beach, work out with this quarterback coach or this trainer in Texas, whatever the case may be. So that's another piece that you can factor into it, because I think that's probably going to be bigger. Because I know everyone wants to play for the championship, but in the same sense, do I really want to be a 2-loss or a 3-loss? Say LSU gets in with 3 losses. They're like, maybe not winning this thing. Okay. I'm going to train. I'm gonna be a first or second round pick. Yeah, so that's probably something I will look out for more than just the record is the fact that, like, do guys want to play? Because I think at that point, if you're 11, you're playing 3 more games.
Right. Okay, fair enough. All right, so now it's award time. The NBA, the association, starts next week on the 22nd. A week from yesterday. Inside the NBA, last season on TNT. All the good things. So we wanted to have a quick conversation about some players that we have our eyes on as far as these awards. So let's take it right from the top. Mr. Logical, who is your MVP?
The one and only light-skinned assassin, Jason Tatum. I got Jason Tatum as my MVP. I think him and Jaylen Brown both feel equally as disrespected. Yeah, keep in mind, any other combination of superstar that essentially went 82-20 on the year, 82-18 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, keep in mind, some teams lost 20 games in a month. The 30-day window last NBA season. These guys go 80 out of 100 games, win a championship, finals MVP, they win these awards. It's like, and then he goes to the Olympics, gets disrespected. I mean, yes, there's a reason. His shots weren't falling, they didn't play him, but I think they probably could have given him more opportunities in those earlier games. Jaylen Brown doesn't even get invited. Joe Mazzulla, I got it right, Joe. The way he was kind of disregarded all last year. It's like, oh, this, it's because his team is so good. It's like his team was good the year before. Or they got Porzingis. Porzingis was a cast off of 2 or 3 teams. I think that collective chip on his shoulder, I got Jason Tatum, because I think they're going to win. It's about the same 62 to 64 games. So, yeah, Jason Tatum, my league MVP.
I was going to say Jason Tatum, but since you said Jason Tatum,
I think you should say it too. That's evident that you and I think outside the box logically and intelligently. It's not a knock that you and I agree, because everything I laid out, you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, but for the sake of conversation,
we can keep going, because
I'm going to say
why we don't think it's going to be other people.
Well, yeah, I was going to do that too, but
we'll go with that.
But I will go with my second place person, just to have conversation. You know what I'm saying? I think that the MVP will be Anthony Edwards.
I don't think so at
You
all.
know, we got Cat out of town now. You know,
Fifth to sixth at best.
Minnesota's defense is still going to keep them in the top 3 in the West, I believe. You know, I think that he's going to get that scoring up to about 28. You know, and when you think about the hole that Cat leaves on the offense, you know, Nas Reed can do some of the same things, but you're trying to get Julius Randle in there. You know, you got DiVincenzo coming in. So you have like a couple of different guys that are coming off the bench that will help out. But I think this is the year, because the reason that I look at somebody like, say, SGA, for example, you know, a lot of people, myself included, felt that SGA should have been MVP last year. You know, but the reason that I think that he won't win it this year is his position. You know,
SGA or Ant?
SGA. Because since he's a point guard, you know, it's hard to duplicate the year that you had, because y'all went and got Hartenstein. So I can't even make the argument that look at what SGA is doing, because then you went and got Caruso too. So you added these 2 pieces or whatever that are going to be foundational for your run to the title. So I can't say, wow, SGA's putting the team on his back, you know. And then when I look at it as well, you imagine that Jalen Williams is going to get better. You imagine that Chet is going to get a little bit better in year 2. So you look at it from the standpoint of all of these, the team is just improving. It's not SGA leading the team.
But I think his numbers could get better.
Well, he already averaged 30.
Yes. I think it'll go 29, maybe 7 assists, maybe maybe 4.5, 5 rebounds. Something to get better, because like I said, the team's gonna improve. They're probably gonna be playing with more leads. We've seen how a lot of teams just haven't improved, even in the West. And I like his personality. I just don't think that his I don't know if he can score enough as fluidly. I think it might look like he's a volume shooter. And because I know he shoots the 3 streaky. You know, he doesn't create space where he gets the 3 off. It's like very streaky. Like, oh, you know, I'm feeling it. I'm getting to the rim. Let me hit this step back. It's like it's an aggressive playing style. I just don't know if he could do that, because he wants to play. You know, he wants to sit in a chair defensively as well. So I don't know if
that's what I was going to bring up. You know, he's defending the best player on the other team.
They don't really count the defense to MVP, because
no, I know, but
a lot of people have Luka
as optics. It's about optics, because as I'm trying to make your MVP case, if I can turn around and say, look at what he did to, you know, Luka. Look what he did to Kyrie. Look at what he did to Jason Tatum.
Yeah, but now, Luka's odds are plus 330, and he doesn't play that much defense. So I don't really think as an MVP defense, I don't think he's going to get pushed over the hump if he's averaging 23.5 points and he's playing top defense, because
which is why I said he's going to average like 28.
But they're only going to look at the offensive end, and I think Luka's probably going to average over 30. But
but I just don't know.
He's going to be a traffic cone defensively, and it's going to be like to the point where it's going to be like a bad look. Like,
I don't know if Dallas can replicate what they did last year. You know, from the standpoint of, and I know, you know, like this is the thing, right? You know how you say, don't piss in my pocket and tell me it's raining. One of my things is, you know why it's a cliche? Because it happens to be true. So, you know, when I look at the Mavs, there's a difference in being the team that's hunting everybody, and now you're the team at the mountaintop. You can't hide anymore. You can't sneak up on anybody anymore, because you made the NBA Finals. And then you went out and got Klay Thompson, who's, you know, 3 for 28 in his last 28 shots in preseason right now. And he's talking about, you know, I got 4 rings or whatever. Like, they trust me, XYZ, whatever. I just don't see Dallas being as good as they were last year. Jokic, I think, is going to run into fatigue, you know, voter fatigue, because now he's got the 3rd one. So for you to get that 4th one, Like you really gotta do something that you haven't done just yet.
And I think Denver's probably gonna. I think the 65 game threshold is going to, by default, eliminate 3 or 4 guys like your Kawhis,
Embiid.
Embiid, Jokic, because the way they got put out last year in the playoffs. Granted, it was a younger team; they played great defensively. It's going to be that whole I'm looking at April, even though it's November kind of mindset. And it's going to be the thing that's kind of bogging the NBA entertainment realm as it is now. I don't know if the Olympics and like how that played out for a lot of the pros, because a lot of pros in Serbia, a lot of pros in France, obviously you got USA team. I don't know if they're going to want to come out and play more games and try to make up the fact that a couple of teams have real opportunities to win gold medals. Serbia had it because they had USA down, and France was really in the battle where Steph Curry had hit 4 straight threes to really give them distance. So I don't know if that's going to carry over to the season, but you can probably eliminate a handful of guys just off of games alone. Like Jalen Brunson, I don't think he played 66 games.
What would it take for Wemby to get some MVP votes?
Man, they got to go like 46 and 36.
Okay, so it ain't happening, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Giannis will probably get some votes just based off of numbers because he's always going to have numbers, but I don't think he'll be really MVP.
I don't think he'll be in a running because I think
unless he sits out some games, because
it's going to be a lot of teams that are they're going to coast through. It's going to be a lot of games where Milwaukee's at Detroit.
I don't think they can though, because you got Middleton coming back. Because Middleton's coming off of the double ankle surgery. Dame. I imagine
even more reason for him not to play a lot of games.
Well, but I'm saying, but that's why he can't get in the MVP conversation because you're like thinking that way. They might not make the top 4.
I think they'll be fine. I just feel as if on that game against Detroit, they're not going to play. It's going to be a couple of games against Chicago where maybe Dame and Giannis both sit. It's going to be games where teams just when they get to 30 games and Washington is 6-24, is like, does Dame really need to play this back to back for like those kind of situations where I think teams are just going to prepare themselves because Boston's going to be leading the pack and it's going to be Boston versus everybody.
Yeah.
And so, So I think a lot of guys are going to just kind of self-eliminate, but I got Jason Tatum on the revenge tour.
Could this person be what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't want to say surprise. I wanted to say something else, but could this person be an unlikely, but somehow end up an MVP candidate? Ja Morant? No,
I don't think so because he doesn't shoot the 3 to get the points that he needs. He's exciting, but he's probably going to get you around 23 and some change.
What if
Memphis, he's not your traditional point guard?
Wins like 54 games.
Well, that's a lot of games. And 54.
Well, they finished 2 seed last time he was playing. So I'm not saying that they're going to be the 2 seed this year.
But they also kind of like they kind of purged that team a little bit.
No, I know, but they still got Jaren. They still got Jaren Jackson. They still got Desmond Bain. They got Marcus Smart. Who's a better Dylan Brooks.
Yeah,
that helps with the ball handling.
They went a year older.
They got Zach Edey.
They got Zach Edey, and I like that. Zach Edey's on my list for rookie of the year, and those we transition to that. But I think the MVP is kind of locked into like 5 guys. At Tatum, it might be outside of that 5, but I think the revenge tour aspect of it, unless him and Jaylen Brown are both going for it, if they're both going. If they're both going for 28 to 30 points a game, then it could be tough.
Right.
But
okay.
I like the chip on the shoulder, mindset.
All right. So rookie of the year, you going with Edey, you said?
I got Edey. I just think Edey, his game transitions, the way he plays, he can do what he did in college and NBA versus the rest of these guys who were playing against 17-year-olds who graduated high school early and dunking all crazy, like your boy Alex Sarr.
It ain't gonna be him.
It's like these guys. They were playing in essentially these pickup these organized pickup leagues. And Zach Edey he swept the awards for player of the year like 2 years in a row. I just feel like that is just a better. I think what he, like I said, I think what he does is transitions better. The rest of these guys all have they have questions like, can they shoot? If you're a rookie, you can't knock down shots. It's like you don't know all defensive schemes. You don't know guys' tendencies. So the likelihood of you being a 6'7", 6'8", 195-pound, 205-pound defender, unlikely, not knowing tendencies. So a lot of these guys are going to get blown by defensively. They're gonna, put up a lot of bad shots, stuff like that. Whereas Edey's gonna get you 2 power dribbles, 7'4" frame, up and under, Canadian Yao Ming style.
So for me, I had a couple of different names, because of course, all draft preview and everything, the world should know how I feel about Steph Castle. I think when it's all said and done, he might be the best player in the whole draft. That might not come to fruition this year, but I think he has a chance. Him and Wemby are going to cause terror for people, especially defensively. But as you said about MVP, defense doesn't really matter unless you're getting a lot of blocks, I guess, that type of thing.
If you're averaging like 4 blocks, 11 rebounds, and 21 points, okay, yeah.
So here's a couple of names that I wrote down. Donovan Clingan, so he has that block ability that we were just talking about, that defensive player of the year type ability. Like, he's not as good as Wemby, obviously, not as athletic as Wemby, but he brings that same type of presence to the paint. The problem is
19 to 62.
Yeah, the problem is I don't know if he's gonna start out starting because Portland still has DeAndre Ayton.
Portland still they're going.
Well, I don't think record matters with Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, it does.
Wemby just won it.
We got to see him. Well, Wemby was a spectacle that we all wanted to see. So we just
LeBron didn't make the playoffs when he won Rookie of the Year.
LeBron is a guy we wanted to see. No one wants to see.
But there's nobody in the draft that we can really say that about.
Zach Edey is going to be the guy. He's going to be.
I know, but we didn't come into the season in the draft like, oh, I can't wait to see Zach Edey.
I was more on Zach Edey because I heard, like, when I was seeing these reports saying he was going to be a 2nd-round pick, I'm like, how's this guy sweep all the best college awards, play
as tall as Wemby,
moves better than Brook Lopez? It's like, how is he a 2nd-round pick?
Right.
That's why I was on Edey because I'm a big proponent of like get the easy shot. It's nothing easier to get the ball to a 7'4" guy who's standing next to a 10-foot rim that he can touch on his tippy. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So 2 of my sleepers are Metellus Buzelis. I think that's
Chicago.
how you say it. Matas Buzelis. And just had the name of Tajon Saloon from the Hornets. So those are my 2 sleepers. I don't think it's going to be Sarr. His offensive game isn't defined yet. Risha Shea, I think, will come on late. I think he'll have a slow start. But I think by the end of the year, he'll come on. But I think that he might have that Jordan Love type start where it just looks awful and you shouldn't be starting. Why did you get drafted number 1? And I think that by the end of the season, he might be clicking to where he's averaging 15 points or something along those lines. Because being in Atlanta, you're going to have Trae Young taking a bunch of shots. DeJounte Murray's gone. So who else is going to get the rest of the shots? So I think he'll have opportunity, but I think it's going to take a little while for him to actually catch on.
Yeah. Only a few of these guys are going to average double digits, and I think Edey's double digits is going to be more impactful.
Yeah. And I think Ron Holland could be a sleeper based off talent. I just don't like the team he plays for.
Yeah,
to set him up for success.
Like Rob Dillingham, Dalton Connect. I just think that they're going to have to defend wing guys, and I don't know how long you're going to be able to play them throughout the game.
And I don't know how many shots.
I think they're not shots they're going to get.
Yeah.
How long you're going to be able to play them if they're getting attacked in the pick and roll, and it's like, all right, we got to pull them out. I think even if you get Edey in the pick and roll, it's like you can give defense, like, you know what, just stay down.
Right.
Just protect the paint. That's the best thing you have. You're 7'4", you're 7'8" wingspan. Is like, just don't try to go out and guard Anthony Davis. Let him shoot that 20-footer. Just
with Dalton
turn into the
Connect,
rim and rebound. Yeah.
With Dalton Connect, JJ Redick's going to have to play with the lineup because if you have him in with the starters or like
you gotta hide
starters, you got because not only that, but I just mean from the back to the shot point, you got LeBron, AD, Austin Reeves, and D'Lo going to jack some shots. So you don't got shots there.
You can bring D'Lo. You could bring D'Lo off the bench and have Dalton run with LeBron and AD. That way, I think they're gonna set him up to get good shots. Because I know LeBron.
Are you bringing Austin Reeves off the bench too, or are you putting him and Connect on the floor together?
I mean, if I could bring D'Lo, if you can, I would have the rookie play with the two vets. They're gonna give him the most space because you got to guard LeBron, you got to guard AD. You don't have to guard D'Lo and Austin Reeves. You can stay connected to Dalton's body. But if AD and LeBron are moving the ball around, you got to help. And he just has to be ready to shoot. Like in the corner, on the wing, or wherever you get it. I think that will help him get open shots.
Okay.
Versus, having D'Lo on the floor. Because I don't think D'Lo creates enough space for him to get open shots.
Right. All right. So who you got for Coach of the Year?
Coach of the Year, I'm keeping it, keeping it Boston. I'm going with Joe Mazzulla. Not Mike Mazzulla. I'm going with Joe. I think last year people just thought it was a fluke, but if we looked as the season played out, we knew the West was going to be crabs in the barrel. Like they were just going to be pulling. Someone's going to be they're going to be clawing at the other ones, pulling them down and having an impact on them. We knew series were going to go 6-7 games, 6 tough games, or almost 7 games in every series. Whereas Boston was going to slide. I mean, if they got a 6 game, it would have been like they had a couple of games where they gave up 97 3-point shots. It was like, okay, they were done. It wasn't like they were battling to the very end and then have to come right back in a couple of days and play a tough game 3. They were just getting blown out in game 2. They would rest everybody, and in game 3, 4, and 5, they close it out. I think this year he's going to get a little bit more credit for what Boston does because you see it last year. People are going to have to look at the old film and put in work. And I think he'll make better adjustments. And like I said, Boston's going to be somewhere around 60 to 64 wins again.
See, for me, that's why I don't like Mazzulla, because it's going to just look like last year. And you already have that expectation. We already expect you to be the best team in the league, runaway team in the league. So
we haven't had a back-to-back champ in,
well, no, I mean, but this is a regular season award, so that part doesn't even matter. But I'm just saying, from the standpoint of
Denver wasn't looking like they were going to win it all last year. It's because we the pressure and everything else. I think handling that pressure, dominating the East again.
But it depends. That's the thing. So if you win, so last year they won 64 games. So if you win 62 this year, you went backwards to some degree. Just looking at numbers, you went backwards. You know what I mean? If you win 64, you did the same thing you did last year. And last year you won the East by 11 or 12 games. So I don't think you're going to win it by 11 or 12 games this year. So I don't know if Boston changes enough unless they just go with best coach or coach of best team, unless they go with that. So I was thinking, I got a couple of different names here, but I'm going to just give you my first name here. So my first name that I thought about just based off of media, based off of hype, let the Knicks win 57 or 58 games. They giving Tibbs that award. Tibbs that award, especially in you're breaking in new players. You went and got Mikal Bridges. See, they don't hurt coaches that way. They hurt players from the standpoint.
As a sports, pundit, how does Tibbs get 57 wins out of that group?
How does he not?
I don't see it. I don't see it. I see a lot of games where Jalen Brunson is holding on to the ball. I don't think they have any scoring.
They won 50 last year.
Yeah, and Jalen Brunson was the only guy holding the ball at the end of the game.
Yeah, and now you got your own version of a unicorn that can step out, pull the defense out.
And I like Cat. I just don't think I don't think you giving up two players like DiVincenzo. I know Julius Randle didn't play, but I think DiVincenzo gives you more for the Knicks than Cat does. And I don't think getting rid of those two guys and bringing in
But see, I think you're doing that thing again.
Gets you 7 wins.
I think you're doing that. I think you're doing that thing again where we were talking about the MVP and Rookie of the Year, where you weren't factoring in defense.
Does Cat play that great a defense though? That's why they brought Rudy Gobert into Minnesota. Like, I like Cat. I just don't think that he's 7 more wins with Tibbs, because we saw what happened in the playoffs with Tibbs.
And you know what?
He ran his guys into the floor.
I would agree with you if they only brought in Cat.
Who else?
They brought in Mikal Bridges. You know, like when they had Anunoby last year, regular season, they went 31-5 with them in the lineup. You know what I mean? And when you look at it, like I was saying, Cat extends the defense and brings the defense out, you know, opening up lanes for other people. So even though, to your point, these guys may not be superstar scorers or whatever, but if you have space and open lanes, you can do something with that. So you figure, so this is the way I figure.
Not to play his guys for 40 minutes every single night.
That comes into play during the playoffs. But you know, so like this is the way my mind is breaking it down. Jalen Brunson is going to get you at least 26 points a game. He averaged 27 last year. He's going to get you at least 26 a game. Cat's going to get you 22, possibly 23.
Correct.
You know, just one of Bridges or Anunoby can get you 15 to 17. You know, at least one of them.
But that's the thing. Jalen Brunson doesn't create offense for other players like Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Anunoby was there as a baller. He was what Tibbs needed. I think he's just like strong wing defender, can hit open shots. But I don't know if Jalen Brunson is coming down the lane on these nights where he's trying to put up 40 and kicking it out and getting guys open looks. DiVincenzo was a guy that was getting those open looks, that was taking them or creating them when he get the ball in his hand. I think they're a 50-win team. I think they're a good team. I just don't see those additions getting them 7 to 8 more wins.
Well, I see it, like I said, just from the defensive standpoint. Like even when they like we mentioned, or I mentioned, I should say, when we did our preview, I mentioned that Anunoby and Mikal Bridges are, you know, this is your answer to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown does this to the rest of the league too. So defensively, Bridges and Anunoby are going to do this to everybody.
I just don't know. I just think the lack of a point guard is going to hurt them offensively.
And also think about the East. You know, you got Washington, Detroit, Charlotte, Atlanta. Miami's not Miami anymore. Miami's not Miami anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so like wins are going to pile up because you're going to play those teams 3 to 4 times.
You're gonna get 8 cheap wins from teams that are just
and then when you look out west, Portland, what the fuck is Utah doing? You know, you play both of them twice. And then when you look at the East, we talk about Philly. Paul George already hurt during the preseason. You know, even though he'll be back, you know, hyperextension, you know, but Embiid's not playing back-to-backs. You know, you're still trying to fit all these new pieces together in Philly. You know, Milwaukee, we just talked about Chris Middleton and his injuries. You know, does Orlando have enough to score consistently? We asked that question. You know, Indiana, can they stop anybody? You know, so there's wins to be had, you know. But the other name I was going to bring up was Kenny Atkinson, you know, over in Cleveland, you know, because I think they're going to finish 3rd in the East. I think they're going to finish ahead of Philly. I think they're going to finish ahead of Milwaukee. And I think that could be a significant enough achievement.
But is that a 47-35 3rd?
I don't think it matters.
You don't think so?
I don't think it matters. Not when you look at odds and when you look at the hype that these teams are, because people are looking at Philadelphia as the challenger to Boston. You know what I mean? So if you finish ahead of them, I don't think it matters what your win is. Like, so if you take wins out of the equation, could Ime get Coach of the Year for bringing the Rockets to the playoffs? Probably not, because they'll probably be a lower seed.
Historically, it's been the surprise team that has put themselves in the upper echelon as far as wins of the league. OKC coach.
Well, I was going to
40,
bring that up. I was
yeah,
going to bring him up
40,
next.
47 wins is 47 wins in the East when we're projecting that Boston, like I said, is anywhere from 60 to 64. I just don't see how a guy that gets 47 wins coach of the year when the defending champion, like I said, I think he has the MVP on his team. Maybe Jaylen Brown says, you know what, maybe I'm gonna hunker down defensively. Maybe he's in the running for, I don't know how well he plays defense, but maybe he's in the running for that. Maybe there. So it's like I just think that Boston just is gonna have a better opportunity to win more games. I don't know if 47 wins gets it done. I think,
I think Mark
52
Daigneault,
to 54 wins.
Mark Daigneault was another name I was going to bring up, because he probably could have won Coach of the Year last year if Boston didn't have the year that they had. Taking OKC to the number 1 seed. So like, but it comes back to the same thing I said about Boston, is getting the 1 seed enough? Like, how close do you have to be to Boston wins wise for him to have a chance of getting the award?
The fact that Boston won the championship is gonna help Missoula if they would have lost last year.
Yeah, they're just gonna go with the name brand, what they know. Yeah.
Yeah, if Boston would have lost in the finals last year, the Missoula getting them to 62 to 64 wins again this year, it wouldn't look like an accomplishment. It looked like, okay, you have unfinished business. But having the win, the way they dominated the East, and to run it right back, I think that's gonna bode well for him.
Okay.
It may be a new coach. Like some coaches kind of fell into good situations. I don't really see a lot of coaches that fell into good situations. But
maybe Chris Finch could get some votes if Minnesota finishes as the 1 seed or a top 2 seed again.
Yeah.
Considering that they lost Cat and everything. So maybe like if they win 51 games.
If he turns like Julius Randle into like the all-star that he was, so a few years back, yeah, I could see him like, sniping some votes, because their games will be on differently, because, one team Central and they'll be playing in the West. So you'll have the Boston game will be over, and then the Minnesota game will be on. So yeah, I can see something like that.
I thought when Julius Randle made the All-Star game, they were just doing something for somebody unfortunate.
Like a Make-A-Wish?
Yeah. I thought that's what that was. Like, he didn't win like a lottery type thing.
Yo, he's gonna fight you when he comes to San Antonio.
Defensive Player of the Year. I think we probably both agree on this one.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Wemby. I was just going to ask
last year.
I was just going to ask, is this the year that Bam Adebayo breaks through? Because he felt like he should have won it 2 or 3 times by now. He thought he should have got it the Marcus Smart year.
The Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, and he thought he should have got it.
I think they might need him more offensively. So I don't know if
they said he had 3 to his game.
Wemby is just gonna be
such a force.
It's gonna be he's gonna average like 4.5 blocks.
Yeah,
like it's gonna be nuts. Second year in the league, he's gonna have Chris Paul throwing him lobs. He's just gonna be filling himself, because like I said, I think a lot of those games where Wemby was playing, I think a lot of times it's like the lack of his offensive opportunities probably took him out of the game somewhere.
Yeah, he looked like he was upset during preseason. I saw like a few times he looked frustrated that he wasn't getting the ball.
Yeah, so
I wonder if he's going to win.
If Chris Paul can give the blueprint to like, this is the play we call to get Wemby the lob.
Well, I wonder if he's going to win it just because he didn't get it last year. Because
I believe he should have won it last year.
Yeah, because I was gonna say you had an argument. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I wonder.
It's not defensive team of the year; it's defensive player of the year.
Right,
like, how did you do defensively? Yeah.
All right. What about most improved?
Out of the box, Paulo Banchero. I think Orlando. The moves they made. I like them in the East. I like them making the playoffs last year. And young guys taking that next step. Duke players. Apparently, I like Duke guys. But yeah, just I think this is his opportunity. I believe the NBA is they have to put in a plan to highlight more young talent. And I think he's gonna be one of the guys that does it. like 26 and a half, 27 points. I'm thinking like a big step for Paulo Banchero.
Okay. I got 3 names. My leader, and I don't know why I keep trying to die on this hill, but I mentioned Cleveland earlier. You know
Evan
what I'm saying?
Mobley.
Yep, with a new head coach. With a new head coach, you
Give him
gotta
the
get it right.
ball and see. Just give him the ball.
Just give him the ball. And Kenny Atkinson is known for developing young players. He was the head coach of that Brooklyn team that got the 8 seed with Karis LeVert and all those guys.
They should just give him Chris Bosh tape. I'm like, yo, just do what this guy did.
Well, he probably can, but they don't give him the ball. And
That's what I'm saying. Like, just
got
give
a
him like, yo,
6'3".
this is how we're gonna put you into action all season long. Chris Bosh between Toronto and Miami. Chris Bosh. This is what we're gonna do.
You got a dude that's you got a 6'3" point guard that wants to shoot. Even if he's standing in the parking lot, he'll still try to shoot the ball. You know, you got your shooting guard who's smaller than him that, wants to take 18 to 20 shots himself as well. So now that you got an actual head coach in there,
it's like, yo, can one of y'all average 9 assists? Which one of y'all want to average 9 assists?
It ain't Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah. Like, one of y'all got to average 9 assists. The other one, I need 6.5. Like, this guy needs 14 shots a game.
But my other names,
which one of you two is going to subtract your 30 shots to get him his 14?
Yeah, so my other names and my number 2 name might be more realistic. Scotty Barnes. They cleared out. You got Siakam out of there. You got Anunoby out of there. You drafted him to be your 6'10" point guard type hybrid Giannis type player. Maybe this is the year Scotty Barnes takes that leap. It might not necessarily mean that Toronto's going to make the playoffs.
But then you really need like a team around you, right? Because the most improved, I know it's an individual award, but I think it kind of goes along hand in hand with like team success. So you're improving. And if they kind of ascended you to like, okay, you're the de facto guy on this team,
right?
Then your improvement has to be commensurate with the wins. Whereas like Paolo, as a team, they're growing, and I think he's going to be the piece that rises.
Well, that's what out of I get that. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But with Scotty Barnes, they won 25 games last year. So him just getting them to 39 in a play-in might be good enough.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because they're not going to be like a top 6 seed. Like their path would be to play in. Another name that I like, and this one is a little bit more, I don't want to say outside the box because he is a good player, but it's just going to depend on can you get him the ball as well. I like Jalen Johnson out of Atlanta. Hopefully with DeJounte Murray out of there, that gets him more shots. DeAndre Hunter never developed into what I thought he was going to develop into. And then the last name, you ready to kill me?
Let's hear it.
Cade Cunningham.
Remember that part I said about team success?
Hey, Cade Cunningham. You know what I'm saying? And then finally, we got 6th man of the year.
I got my guy.
All right, let's hear it.
Dante DiVincenzo, baby.
I knew it.
I saw him when he was talking about, this is what happens when you let the dad run the show. Oh, yeah. Him and Ant, I think Ant's going to be boosting him up. I think Ant's going to come off be on the sideline, just amping him up. I think that's going to be fun to watch. I think the shit talking is going to be great. I'm here for it.
All right. What do you think? This is not my answer, but what do you think of Josh Hart's chances?
Not likely. He won't get enough shots. He won't get enough shots. If you had to think about it, he's on the floor. Him, Cat, Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson. Who's 5th in the shot chart?
Fair enough.
6 man, those guys, because he's probably going to start a lot of games because he plays great defense. 6 man, you got to get, you're looking at 16, 17 points off the bench. Mm-hmm. That seems to be like the going rate. and then you're able to be on the floor when it's closing out because you can hit threes.
So then, with that all being said, my answer is your sixth man of the MVP's teammate.
Derek White?
No, you said Dante DiVincenzo, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You got Nas Reed?
Yeah.
I think Nas Reed is probably going to be put in the starting lineup when they realize that they kind of missed what Cat gave them. Because I thought that same thing when I picked
Julius
Dante.
Randle is in the Deshaun Watson lane of he makes too much money potentially to come off the bench. That's the thing that I look at with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because you can't play them together, I would think, like very long, like over a long period of the game, Nas Reed and Julius Randle.
Yeah, unless you're starting Julius at the 5 in those games with Gobert. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah,
that's a tough trade they made there because you kind of paid yourself into a bad corner.
Or conventional
Julius
wisdom,
comes off the bench.
Conventional wisdom, it could be Malik Monk. I know he's the favorite, but he's coming off an injury, so that's why I didn't pick him, just because he's coming off the injury. But he lights it up.
Yeah, he's gonna be that Jamal Crawford role. Like, listen, this is what I do. I'm off the bench and I'm on fire.
Yeah.
I'm open at the scoring table.
There you go. Well, last things last. Who is Mr. Logical's NBA Finals and champion?
I mean, it's chalk. I'm gonna go with Boston. I don't really think that many teams made significant moves. I think their core is still very young. I think they paid their core. They paid all their guys. And the guys that haven't get paid on favorable contracts, they just seem to have a role for every player that comes in the game. 10 or 11 guys all have like a significant carved out role coming off the championship, like I said. And then the chip on the shoulder is very similar to what Kansas City's dealing with in the NFL. Like, we won back-to-back Super Bowls, and you guys we're underdogs to a 3-3 team in San Francisco. So like stuff like that. I think that's going to be a rallying cry for the Boston Celtics, and I believe it repeat.
Who they going to beat?
I can't say Dallas. I thought
you was going to say Denver.
Nah, because I don't know Jamal Murray. I don't know if it's going to be one of those things where people kind of expect him to do more in the regular season. And, he strained something and he misses some time. I like Minnesota's chances if the Julius Randle, Nas Reed part works seamlessly. Obviously, you still got like Dallas. I don't know about Clay. Clay seems to be, he might be a little too long in the tooth. OKC definitely has, on paper, looked like they made the biggest improvement by, even with that minor addition of Hartenstein, it just kind of solidifies their biggest, and Caruso. Like their biggest issue was toughness. Well, rebounding, and rebounding is a toughness trait. So my young superstar here, she's trooping it out. Very late. Mother's gonna kill me.
So I'll wrap this up real quick. I'm taking OKC over Boston. That's my finals. And one name that I forgot to mention in the most improved player, it just hit me as I was saying that. Josh Giddey. You know what I'm saying? Like
But Chicago is gonna be 16 and 66.
We'll see. We'll see. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, but shout out real quick, most clutch player. I'm going, my head says Jalen Brunson. My heart says Kyrie Irving.
I'm going DeMar DeRozan.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't even have that one written down. I just you just said it and it just came to my mind.
But I put the Kyrie jersey on and I'm like, you know what? What award can Kyrie win? It's like most clutch. I'm like, you know what? That's right up his alley.
For sure. But ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. He is Mr. Logical. That is Autumn. I am your unorthodox statistician. We will be back on Friday with picks, and more picks. See you then. We love you. Peace.